Final Fantasy Tactics is a completely different animal from most other games in the series, not just because of the gameplay, but because of the story. The conflict in Tactics is the result of a series of power plays between various kingdoms, noble families, and the stand-in for the Catholic Church trying to gain control of the land of Ivalice. Think of it like Final Fantasy's equivalent of Game of Thrones, and one of those major players is Dice-Darg Beolv. I'm just gonna call him Dice-Darg, I have no idea how to pronounce it, there's no voice acting. Dice-Darg is the eldest son of the Beolvs, a noble family famous for producing some of the kingdom's finest knights and greatest heroes, and on top of that he's the former leader of the Order of the Northern Sky. After he poisoned his father to gain control over the house, he allies himself with Duke Lard in the latter's plot to install his nephew Prince Orneus on the throne of Ivalice and therefore rule as regent. However, Dice-Darg himself is just using Lard for his own gain, but he nonetheless goes along with the plan anyway to try to abduct the other potential heir, and when the War of Succession finally does break out, and circumstances allow it, Dice-Darg stabs Larg in the back in order to make his move on the Regency himself. Dice-Darg is one of the most Machiavellian villains in the entire series, and like I said before, he'd be right at home in Game of Thrones. He's manipulative, self-serving, charismatic, and really good at playing the long game. Whether it be allying himself with Larg to slowly gain the latter's trust, or poisoning his father over time to avoid arousing suspicion, never let it be said that this man is impatient. Then there's his design. His appearance and mannerisms aren't really even that evil looking, but even before his true colors are revealed, he has an air of authority around him that makes it clear that he's not to be trifled with. It really does feel like he has a specific plan for every possible outcome, even if there isn't much to his motivations aside from wanting more power. There's a ton going on for this guy, so why is he so low on the list? Well, he suffers from a problem that the entire game suffers from. You see, like I mentioned before, this game is centered around a complex political power struggle that's really down to earth, complex, and feels like it could have happened in the real world. Towards the end of the game, it's revealed that the real instigator of the conflict was the Church of Saint Ajora. However, they're not in it for political power. Oh no. Led by the head of the Knights Templar and ostensibly the main villain of the game, Volmar of Tengil, the Church's whole goal in the game is to use the competing sides to gather the Zodiac Stones to resurrect their Dark Lord Ultima. So yes, this morally gray story of Realpolitik is reduced to Evil Man Wants Magic Rock. What does this have to do with Dice-Darg? Well, the conspirators all turn out to be possessed by Ultima's demonic servants, the Lusavi, and during the end of the game, Dice-Darg is possessed by one of them, so the conflict with him doesn't really feel like it resolved properly. This sort of thing is handled a lot better by another Tactics villain later on the list, but for Dice-Darg, it just falls a bit flat. The final fight with him isn't even that challenging. Despite the fact that the narrative chickens out at the last second, Dice-Darg is a really compelling villain, despite his lack of complexity. To me, Dice-Darg seems like a microcosm of Tactics as a whole. His potential is wasted in his final moments, but for the most part, he succeeds on pretty much every level.